Okay, welcome back. And now again, let me take you to the presentation. The initial this thing PPT was a little too theoretical, so I thought maybe let me change the format a little. Let's see if this works. Okay, and the slideshow. Okay, there it is. So these SMART goals we've seen, and then of course we understand that the goals need to be attainable if they are SMART. So there has to be a precedent. Some situations which would have happened earlier, which was similar, in which such a goal was achieved, and also the environment. Environment precedent is very important. Uh, if presume the environment was different earlier, in which the goal was attainable, and now the environment has changed or the situation has changed, so that precedent would definitely not work. uh, I, I was doing a session for a very junior level in a very how should I say, a very mature organization. So even those folks who were team leads that time, they had the maturity of senior managers, and I can assure you that extremely wonderful individuals. And they told me one thing. They said, "We like the way you present these thoughts of SMART goals and everything. But the point being, what if we are being told that this is what you need to achieve by hook or by crook, and make sure you get it done, and one of us ends up doing it? Then what happens? And then where does this attainable and everything, the goal being smart, specific, or being relevant, how much value add to the customer and things to that effect? Where does all this go? This goes for a toss then. Maybe not the relevant and the, of course, yeah. Uh, and we then kind of had a dialogue for a while. And from that dialogue, I understood that whenever this attainable precedent has been set, it could, it could be a pilot that you do, and that pilot creates a precedent saying that whatever it is that you want to do as part of, say, a product which is being developed or service offering that you want to offer, um, that is there. It can be achieved, but that precedent will be only of that particular pilot phase project that you have done. You don't have any other precedent. So then the leadership has to decide whether this is attainable in a larger environment as such or not. And I think I used that example somewhere ahead also. Let's think of a manufacturing organization, a automotive manufacturing organization, wherein they have gone and created some kind of prototype like the Nano. Now, while you have created the Nano in a controlled environment, and you took, say, maybe 6 months to create a Nano initially to begin with, till the time you do not put it into mass production, there's absolutely no way that you'll have a precedent for it, right? Only when you put it in mass production will you realize that, okay, this is actually how this entire thing will get done, and these are the other glitches which will come when we say go from 10% production to, say, maybe 60% production of a certain product, right? And can be absolutely any environment, any product, any service. You can take that and extrapolate this example. So the precedents are again very dynamic. So the goals cannot be specific, maybe measurable. We don't necessarily know. Again, depending on whether they are specific or not. And let's again, cycle back and look at the measurable piece. In the measurable piece, we might want to say that okay, uh, for a marketing individual, if an individual is told that you need to capitalize on this particular market and ensure that over here our sales increase, or the market capitalization increases by a certain percentage, and that same goal is given to 2-3 folks in that same environment, how much will it depend on their personality or on their skills and other things which are individual to them to achieve that goal? It will be very dynamic. It will again be very different. So when you distribute SMART goals in the organization, and then you say that Adam, please get along with John, or Rohit, please get along with Kumar, that doesn't necessarily happen. Why that doesn't happen is because Rohit believes that his capacity to do work could either be more or could be less, and according to him that goal is not SMART. And similarly, Kumar also believes that according to him that goal is probably created for Rohit, or for John or for Adam, and not for him. He could either again do more or do less, or whichever way. So this entire smart goal thing again kind of gets into trouble. Then comes the point of relevant. How relevant is a goal? How much value it is adding to the customer, to your primary customer, or at least to say secondary customers of that particular customer that you have or a client that you have. Basis that the individual will be compensated, and that is a direct linkage between that. So of course the rest of the things are not necessarily directly linked to the compensation piece. Maybe the time bound, okay, the fifth point also, of course, maybe. But the relevance and how much value it is adding to the end customer, the client, the customer, in certain cases for internal service offerings, maybe the internal customer also. That is directly linked to the individual, whoever has this goal sheet, to his compensation. Now, if that is directly linked to their compensation, that is something which is very, very close to their heart also. So everybody wants to be in something which is more relevant. Everybody wants to be, at one point in time in IT industry at least, everybody wanted to work on billable projects. Why billable? Were they not getting their salary if they were working on a non-billable project? No, because that was more value add. They considered those projects to be more critical, more relevant to the customer. So everybody wanted to be on a billable project. And of course, the time-based, this thing, the factor of the smart goals, and that is understandable. Now, again, within time-based, they can be short-term, oblique long-term. So let's say if you were to decide on a strategic goal for your organization, then a long-term could probably be, say, 3 years or 3 to 4 years, and a short-term could be maybe, say, 1 or 2 years, and that could be time-based. Okay, now from the structure of smart goals, coming back again into personality and trying to understand what can be very, very basic triggers. Now, say you land up in the office early morning and you see somebody making a face like this lady is making over here. What would you think? What would be your perception? My first few thoughts are maybe, she's happy. I don't know, maybe. Is she surprised? Possibly. Is she fearing something? Quite possible she's seen a rat somewhere. Is she sad? Maybe not, but that's just the frown on her face. Maybe she's sad. I really don't know. Is she angry? Quite possible she could be angry. Is she disgusted with something? Of course, this could be a face when she's disgusted also. So maybe besides happiness, there are so many conflicting thoughts in my mind. I cannot filter as to what is it that she really wants to convey, and that will be a trigger for conflict in my mind. Now my mind is thinking, okay, let's leave happiness aside, but these rest of these 5 emotions, it could be absolutely anything. So that creates the conflict in my mind. So that is something which is a trigger, a personality trigger. Again, if you see an individual doing this, so which one is, let's match these 2 photographs and let's see. So which one is sadness? Definitely not the one below. Or maybe it could be sadness. You clench your fist and you say, I'm extremely sad, and it could be a very, very extreme emotion. The guy who's, in the standing posture. The other one wherein he's sitting, it's probably the thinker posture. He could be sad. That's quite a possibility. Anger, maybe both. Again, the moment the second emotion I think of, I start getting this conflict in my mind, and I say maybe both, or I don't know, or I'm not very sure. So this is my triggers for conflict. The confusion that somebody's bad communication, or okay, let's not say bad communication. Let's not be judgmental. Let's just say somebody's communication style which is not very, very distinct, or which till date I have not been able to understand, will create conflict triggers in my mind. And that internal conflict which will get triggered in my mind might very much, it's quite possible that it will escalate and become an external conflict, right? So this is not even getting into personality. I'm not even getting into any kind of personality traits. I'm just talking about facial expressions and how they can trigger challenges for conflict. Okay. The next could be happiness. Okay, maybe not. So that's the red herring. Surprise, of course, both of them could be, surprised. The person is surprised, shocked, and of course, both of them could be fear again. So these are the conflicting thoughts that are going on in my mind when I am in front of somebody whose facial expression I can't read. Okay, now what is this? Yeah, famous Einstein, a very famous photograph, uh, wherein he's just expressing happiness or maybe a surprise, or he's saying, okay, fine, enough of very critical work. It is Saturday evening, so let's just go and maybe have a drink. I really don't know. So it's one of those expressions. This again, probably disgust, probably fear, probably confusion, just probably concentration, maybe just a laptop in front of her and she's concentrating on something. So we really don't know. Again, of course, this is again just trying to be humorous here. Okay. Now, what is this? Uh, this is a thematic appreciation kind of, you look at something and you try and appreciate as to what exactly is happening. I picked up some of these things back in the during the army selection days. Quite interesting. Let's say you were to write down on a piece of paper whether what is it that happened maybe 5 minutes earlier, and what is going to happen after this particular photograph or this pic or the scene that you've seen on the screen. What would happen 5 minutes after this? And let's presume you were to write down those things down, and you're sitting in a group and then exchange sheets. You would end up surprising yourself. The kind of things that I've heard, and let me just share them with you. Uh, Somebody said, "Oh, she's discovered that her husband is there and he's sleeping and he's drunk, and they can see a bottle in his hand, and she's really disgusted with him. She doesn't know what to do, and she's just kind of crying." So that was one view of it. The other view of it was that she's come home and she suddenly discovers that her husband, who had been sick for a while, suddenly passed away, and she's crying. So that could be second way of interpreting it. The third way of interpreting it could be that she's gone ahead and murdered him, or done something absolutely crazy. Then there were also few other suggestions which I would not want to mention on this video. So there are different ways of thinking. Let's say that in your team there are a couple of people who think in this different manner. So not even getting into their personalities or trying to understand, or giving them a psychometric test or do anything fancy of that sort. You understand that people think differently, and especially about things which are not necessarily related to them. If this was related to them, then they would be even more emotional. Let's say that this was a boss who was found, cheating on some kind of individual in the office, and some other office employee walks in. Then the reaction would probably even be more, if that was your actual situation in case of just watching this video, your reaction would be much more escalated, and then obviously chances of conflict happening within the organizational, right? Okay, so let's look at this. Now, what does this photograph tell you? Again, some folks have told me that they saw a train going outside, and this lady is alone and she's just watching that train and wondering if a boyfriend would come home early. The other person told me that she's unfortunately met with an accident. She seems to be in a wheelchair, and she's wondering with how and when she'll be able to stand up and kind of move out and move around in the world. The other individual said she's just relaxing at home. It's a little cold, so she's just got a blanket over there, and she's a student, and she's just waiting for a boyfriend's call who lives in the window right opposite to her, and they have a jolly good time speaking with each other every day. So that's another view of it. So these are again different personalities talking to you and saying that yes, we perceive things in a very different manner. So our triggers are extremely different, right? Okay. Now, what is this gentleman's trigger? Oh, sorry, what is his mood like and his facial expression? Yeah, that's Steven Seagal, a very famous action hero, and most action heroes are like him only. They don't show expression, so it's more of a Japanese cultural thing because they do a lot of that taekwondo stuff. So in Japanese culture, it is usually recommended that do not show your expressions to people in the office. That doesn't necessarily work, because then people can't read you, people can't make out as to who you are. And whatever that people do not understand, whatever employees in the organization do not understand, they fear that. If whether it's an individual, whether it's a process that does not have transparency, or whether it's an entire leadership team who take their own decisions without necessarily getting the rest of the folks in the organization involved. So whatever an individual is not aware, or whatever a team is not aware of, and they cannot necessarily understand, they will fear that. So this is the worst thing that you're supposed to be doing. Great. Now coming from strategy to execution, let's say we have some kind of, after going through all this that we've gone through, we have some kind of strategy in our mind for managing conflict better. So let's say we want to execute that, and let's now see some examples for that. Let's say you are launching a new project like we wanted to do earlier, and once you launch this particular project, whom do you choose as the sponsor? Whom do you choose as the person who's the central pivot who says, I am going and sponsoring this project. This project has my blessings. I will be the chief mentor. I'll be the chief guide. I will ensure that being a person of authority within that organization, there will be no hang-ups of any sort. There will be no intentional roadblocks created or things to that effect. Now presume there's a manufacturing organization in which this role of the project sponsor is taken by one of the regional heads. Say you are headquartered, your corporate office is in Gurgaon, or your corporate office is in Bangalore, and from Bangalore, one of your regional offices is close to Hubli somewhere, and another one, say maybe in Andhra and Vizag, and the gentleman who's sitting in Vizag says, okay, I have this excellent idea about a large change project which I want to sponsor, and because this gentleman has excellent connections, let's say, okay, not trying to be smart over here. The point is, if the individual does not have connections with people in the organization that matter, then super sponsorship will not be there, right? So has connections with somebody, say in the corporate office, who says, okay, go ahead and do this. This project might fail just for the basic reason that this individual does not belong to a location where the central folks are sitting. So just because it's a regional head who people don't necessarily know, everybody in the organization doesn't necessarily interact with this individual, they might not trust him, and that will be a sponsor, a sponsorship mistake, so to say. That will create conflict. This individual will not be able to create a buy-in from everybody in the organization. Now, how to ascertain that the individual actually has a buy-in from everybody in the organization? It is not democracy. It's not a majority vote kind of a situation, because people are your stakeholders and they are involved. The closer the stakeholder, the more involved the individual is, or the team is, or the department is, and within that situation, the more closer they are, the more they have to agree with you totally. So when you create a consensus, that time you're ensuring that yes, even my closest stakeholders, I am not taking them for granted, I'm taking them along with me, and I have considered each and every point they had to table. Okay, so that is one thing. So you try and create a buy-in from everybody. The next you want to do is, you need to understand people's change readiness level, or their tolerance to ambiguity, or let's say other terms that you might want to use, their openness to change, those kind of flexibility in simple terms. You will have to gauge that, and the way of gauging that is to try and understand who in their everyday work scenarios are dealing with things which are new, right? Not necessarily something which is extremely innovative or absolutely new or something of that sort. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is in your environment. Let me take a very, very simple example. A shopkeeper who has a shop in an area which is next to a park, and in a very, very isolated area, will probably be used to the kind of customer walk-ins which happen. Maybe one customer walks in after every 2-3 minutes, a relaxed old gentleman or an old lady coming from a residential area, asking him for some very, very simple things like give me some chai patti, or give me some coffee, or whatever it is, versus an individual who mans say a McDonald's outlet in one of these very busy malls in Bangalore. Okay, if these two individuals were to be gauged for change readiness, my bet is most of you would say yes, the individual who's working at McDonald's is much more ready for changes or much more ready to be flexible and face a unambiguous kind of an environment than the other individual, right? So again, taking an example from a manufacturing organization, 20% plus move to remote location suddenly. From a central location, say like Bangalore, you upstick people and move them to Hubli. And in the past also similar failures have happened. Change readiness has not been gauged. Again, this one will fail, right? So that's a very simple hypothesis that you have, and which will definitely, if this kind of a change is happening suddenly, people will not like it. So change readiness of those individuals, you don't even have to judge. You can say, fine, this will not happen. Okay. Next, in an IT organization, 50% people move to shared services. Now, earlier I was used to having one particular boss. Now I suddenly have, say, 10, 15 bosses who are my 10, 15 different client bosses, or my supreme, bosses at the client end. And that happens to 50% of the organization in one go. Even if you check people's change readiness, this such a large change, if impacted immediately, will not work, and it will definitely create conflict. So that is again one this thing. So your execution is bad. Your strategy might be okay. You might be trying to save money. That is okay, but your execution on the people side is extremely bad. Okay, buy-in from all. Again, I think I'm repeating myself. Majority vote versus consensus. Okay.